CHAMPtitles digitizes vehicle titles and the process to acquire them, manage them, and transfer them. So at the end of the day, we're taking a paper process and turning the entire thing digital for everyone that touches a paper title.
You know, it's interesting because we like easy. We want things to be easy. When you started this company, you had no idea that COVID was coming. And so now enter in that piece of the puzzle where people may not want to have to do things in person. And so that really plays into that too, right?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's had the Bureau of Motor Vehicle experience, right, at some point or another. I mean, in Ohio, we're lucky we probably have a dramatically above average one.
Yeah.
But in some states, like I've lived in a few, it's a 2-hour process to wait there and wait in line and to get this stuff done. So all of that, I think, is being examined in the age of COVID, which is, do you really need to go to a physical government location to get a form? Unfortunately, a car is one of the few things that you buy, other than maybe real estate, where the state's involved in terms of certifying ownership, right? Because if we buy anything else, jacket, pair of shoes, right? We don't need the title to our shoes, right?
Right.
Not yet.
Hopefully not.
So a car is unique that way. And because it harkens back, over 100 plus years, the idea that it was this certificate, this piece of paper that was very fancy, that signed by a state agency, that was not comprehending that there would be tens of millions of these things being moved constantly, especially across state lines. So what we're doing is making that process just much easier.
I think in the world of tech, if you're a business person, you may know a lot about it, or you may go, this is a totally different language to me, but I know that I need it. So I've talked to a lot of people in the tech industry, and some claim big things, but they aren't really executing them yet. So can we talk a little bit about the CHAMP title and the fact that what you say you can do is something that you actually can do?
When Bernie and I started this, it was just our background in this space, believing that we could come up with a better way to reimagine how titles move around in this country. And we finally turned it live at the end of August, and we're so excited by it. We sort of geek out over these things. But we turned it live for the insurance carrier sector. And for insurance carriers, they used to be waiting on titles for 50 days. And now in Ohio, I'm proud to say they're waiting on them for 1 day. And what that does for a consumer is it makes that horrible experience where you have a claim on your car go so much faster. And eventually, we believe premiums will come down too. So we're excited for what this means, not only in Ohio, but as we expand across the rest of the country. And we will be expanding across the rest of the country. There's some really exciting announcements coming up about some big partnerships and folks that are backing us to make sure that that expansion happens.
How quickly do you expect this to roll out?
Well, Bernie doesn't have a lot of patience, so pretty quickly.
No, is that true?
What? What were we talking about?
He answered 3 emails during this last session. So.
Somehow he did. He's figured out how to just do it like through telepathy.
Yeah, it's like anything else with tech, right? If you remember the first person that you can think of that had an iPhone, right? Think of who that was. Who was that one person, right? And it's like, oh my God, it's so cool. And now it's just everywhere. It just happens. So there's a very slow curve, but it hits an inflection point where it just exponentially grows, and we're just getting to that stage. We just need to show people a new process, because that's what it is. I was thinking, I'm flying to Washington, D.C. tomorrow to visit my daughter. She's moving in a new place. And I've changed my flight 3 times, mostly because of her, right? Because, come this day, come that day. Imagine if we were back 40 years ago when you had paper boarding passes. You just couldn't do that. It's not physically possible. So what transforming a paper process to digital process allows us to increase the velocity at which these things happen. And it's not whether I have patience or not. We as consumers don't have patience, right? Because remember the first time you ordered shoes on Amazon and got here the next morning? And you were amazed. You're not amazed anymore though. You expect it. It's one of those things where if the shoes come 3 days later, you think, what the heck? You've been on the phone with Amazon going, where are my shoes? It's been 2 days. It's incredible. So we become used to that norm. Yeah. And so buying a car, we think, should be just as frictionless. But to a large extent, the fact that the ownership document has to be proven out with paper slows that process down quite a bit. So we think that when states see that, everybody wins in the equation. The state saves money. Shane mentioned the insurance companies save money, which easily obviously translates to they can lower their premiums because their costs are lower. It's a very competitive business, right? Banks save money, and the consumers get that process to happen much faster. You don't have to visit the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, which I don't think any of us would love to do before. We certainly don't want to do it now in the age of COVID and beyond.
Many carriers today already advertise about how easy their claims process is. Well, one of the worst experiences you can have with a car is to have an accident where it's a total loss. And that could happen because you're in a car accident, God forbid, or it could happen because of a natural disaster, a flood, hail, hurricane, what have you. And when those experiences happen, you don't want to be mired in paperwork. You want a fluid process. You want your carrier to take care of you. You've paid them premiums. You want a great experience, and you want to get your new car. And so if the process is mired in pages and pages and pages of pieces of paper and documents you've never seen before, and you're trying to get over this horrific circumstance, as opposed to pull out your phone, click through a few things, the data's all verified, and moments later, the insurance company has their title and you have your money, that's the world that we're creating with CHAMPtitles.
Right, so we're filming this on a Thursday or whatever day of the week it is. You have a big announcement coming. You have a partnership. Probably by the time this airs, we'll be able to say who that is. So we're going to see this happening. This is happening in like what? We're talking days, weeks?
Well, the announcement will be in days, but
Okay.
the rollout of technology will be rapid. We expect deep penetration in 2021. So we're excited about how many states will be able to roll this out. And thankfully, this isn't about getting states to be convinced that they have to authorize this. States have processes that are available for us to be able to transact in the way that we've reimagined this process. So we're excited that the reimagination of the way titling occurs in the automobile sector is complete, and it's a matter now of us rolling that out across the nation.
Yeah, and technology has proven that anytime you make something easier, it's kind of like carving a river. The water just flows, right, when it's carved properly. So if you think about pre-COVID ordering, like you said, you want to go to this restaurant we talked about, right? Taza, shout out. And you want to go there for lunch. Your thought is takeout because it's so easy now. 3 clicks on your computer, the food's there waiting for you. It's easy. Maybe 2 years ago, you'd be on the phone for 15 minutes, transfer to 4 people. You got there, who are you? They go back to the kitchen. You're like, oh, forget it. I'm just not going to do it. And so we'd go to a McDonald's because it's just faster, right? But every restaurant, or I shouldn't say every restaurant, the restaurants who have been successful during COVID are the ones who pivoted their business model. Chez Francois is a good example, right? And they've done amazing takeout business that you wouldn't think, right? The highest end restaurant imaginable would become an amazing takeout restaurant, but they survived that way. So back to the world of CHAMPtitles, we think that what we do is we carve out these rivers where waters flow very, very easily and smoothly. And again, everybody wins in that equation, right? There's nobody who feels left behind or somebody this is costing them more money. It's just the challenge we face is that these rivers are new, right? And so you have a whole infrastructure that's been around for decades around working through this cumbersome process. But once they see the light, it happens. Boarding passes on planes. When was the last time you printed out a boarding pass to get on a plane? It would never even occur to you today. Yeah. 3 years ago, it was a norm. And 20 years before that, it was mailed to you. We can't imagine that. So that's what we look at. Movie tickets, sports tickets, all that, the same thing. It just hits an inflection point. It just becomes normalized.
And like I said, we love to geek out about titles. And one of the weird things about titling is that any company that's in the space besides us wasn't purpose-built for titling. They were purpose-built for something else. And then as a convenience, they decided to process titles for car dealers or for lenders or for insurance carriers. We've reimagined this process because of Bernie's background and my background and the great team we've hired from within the industry to really custom build a new experience around any time you need to touch a title. You think about the big retail innovations that are occurring in auto with Carvana, Drive Time, Shift, Vroom. I mean, Vroom's amazing right now. And you see what they're doing, but they still have a title problem. They're still doing all these transactions online, yet they've got this title issue. And now we can help to eliminate that and make the whole process better for the title ecosystem.
And the exciting part is happening here in Cleveland, right? So that we're able to start a tech company, grow a tech company here in Northeast Ohio. And we're equally excited about that. I think that's a big testament to what's potentially possible here.
Well, I think we're moving into a period we have to have growth, right? You have to progress forward. There was a day when somebody probably said, there's no way we're going to get off these horses to move across the country, right? And then we put wheels on cars. And so I think as we're moving into these years ahead, it's awesome what you're doing. So congratulations.
Yeah, there's a great picture of New York City at the turn of the century where you see 2 or 3 cars and a sea of horses. And of course, people on a horse are like, what are these idiots doing, right? Fast forward just a decade later, and you see 2 or 3 horses and a sea of cars, and the cars are going, what are these idiots doing? So it turns fast. I mean, and I think what's important for Cleveland, for Northeast Ohio, is for us to always be thinking about what's coming and not what has happened in the past. We have to be ahead of the curve, not behind it. And one of the things that we're excited about here with Champ is that we're showing that you can build a forward-thinking company. One of many, by the way. I don't want to say we're by any way. The Progressive Insurance is headquartered here. They are a very forward-thinking company. I mean, they reimagined insurance 20 years ago, and they continue to do that. And they're right here in Northeast Ohio. We just don't think about them a lot because they're kind of quiet over in the little world in Mayfield. But we have a lot of really innovative companies here, so we're happy to kind of be another one of the many that are here in Northeast Ohio.